time to welcome my guest today. I'm so delighted to see her. She's an Olympian, a former gladiator, a sports commentator, and a fearsome campaigner. I first met her back in our Big Breakfast days in 1996. I am delighted that she's joining me on my show now. A huge welcome to the extraordinary Sharron Davies. Oh, it's so nice. What do you think of this?
Very
and you
nice.
know, this is late for us because we're used to seeing each other at dawn on the Big Breakfast, aren't we?
Yeah, it wasn't so good, was it? Very, very first thing. It was like, oh, fix this. Quickly, everybody.
It was just, and we were kind of, you'd see each other through a sort of fog of sleep. We'd be like, hello, morning, morning. No, everyone was too exhausted to talk in makeup. Afterwards, people were falling asleep all over the place. But it was an extraordinary atmosphere, the Big Breakfast.
Absolutely. And you carried on doing 3 o'clock calls. I kind of did my stint, I think, about a year, and then I went, no more, thank you very much. I did a lot of early morning swimming sessions, so I think I'd paid my dues.
You certainly have. No one can say you haven't swum your absolute heart out and head off. But on the Big Breakfast, one of the things that was kind of revolutionary about it was that it was unscripted.
No, totally.
And do you remember the line, don't phone, it's just for fun?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and what was quite frustrating was they would send you kind of new scripts the night before and you would read them all, wouldn't you, and digest all this information. And then you get them in the morning and they changed everything.
The whole thing was changed. It was really seat of the pants kind of stuff. I remember people falling in the lock. Do you remember it was Lockkeeper's Cottages? There was an actual lock. And they were saying, yes, we're filming out on the lock, by the lock, run across the bridge. And then the cameramen would fall in, the camera would fall in, the chickens would escape from the coop.
A total sort of, bastion of fire, wasn't it? Learning experience of 3 hours of live TV living under the seat of your pants, I have to say.
Yeah, one of the most harrowing experiences I've had, because I was the on-the-bed person,
yes,
which
I
inherited from Lily Savage, and before that, the late, beautiful Paula Yates, both of them now watching this programme from a cloud in heaven, and I love them both. And this is me on the bed with Miss Piggy, Kermit and Gonzo, the Muppets. So you might think, how difficult could that possibly be? But if I tell you, Miss Piggy turned on me. She took against me. I mean, she's a fearsome foe. She's not easy. She really isn't. And she just didn't like me straight away because I began, by mistake, it wasn't on purpose, just I was facing Kermit, so I spoke to Kermit first. And she took offence, tremendous offence.
You always had the really interesting guests on the bed.
Did you think so?
Yeah, I think so. I think so.
And so...
A cool gig.
Television will never be quite the same, will it, after that, I don't think?
No, I must admit, I don't miss it that much. It was a bit too much of a mayhem for me. I came from sort of sport where I was, interested in live activities. And I remember getting very upset one day because we had a youngster that had done this incredible channel swim and raised a lot of money, I think, for their parents, that one of their parents had passed away or something. And this child was only like 11 or 12. And they dropped it because they were going to do yet another piece on the Spice Girls, which we'd seen about 40 times already that morning.
Right.
And I just thought, this young girl needs her time on telly. And yes.
I think one of the things about you that is special and that people relate to is when you have a belief, you are firm, you are unshakable, you're absolutely about what you really think. You're very firm as a person, I think. That's what I think anyway. And when you talk about this swimmer that you remember all these years from 1996, a long, long time ago, this is what you're still doing today. You're campaigning to get kids swimming. And all over the country, pools are being closed down. Yeah. And this is one of the kind of instances where if you're a wealthy kid from a wealthy family, your parents might fork out for lessons for you. If you're not, you might never learn to swim.
Yeah, I mean, so I gave evidence at the House of Commons to get swimming on the national curriculum in the early 80s, right after I first retired. And what we're supposed to do is make sure all our under 11s can swim 25 metres. And sadly, that's just not happening now. And I do understand that there's money and finance is really tight for primary schools. However, this is a life skill. And it's always the kids from areas of deprivation that are the ones that are going to miss out, because the parents that can afford to will make sure that their children can swim. And it's nearly 50% of kids are not leaving school being able to do that 25.
50%?
Yeah, nearly 50%.
Because most of us, not you, of course, but most of us remember with great dread and misery our swimming lessons at school, the Veruca sock, and I've never recovered from I think it was it the silver personal survival, where you had to take your pyjamas off, tie a knot in each foot. No, the diving for the brick. That's one thing, but the pyjamas, you know what I'm going to say about the pyjamas?
Yeah, inflatable ones.
Yeah, you had to take them off, tie a knot in each foot, and then blow up the waistband while treading water, then tie it and put your chin on it as a floating device to save your life.
You're going to have to teach me that one.
I was always waiting to fall into some lot wearing my pyjamas. It never happened, but that nearly drowned me, that one. It was a really difficult one. But we were forced to learn to swim, whether we wanted to or not.
We made sure that our kids could swim. And it was really, really important. And we lost 300 pools from before COVID, and they've not been replaced. You know, and swimming is a sport that everyone can do. It's a skill for life. You can do it whether you're injured, whether you're pregnant, whether you're old, whether you're young. You can do it together as a family. It saves lives. So it's really important that we get our kids.
And to parents who will say to you, but Sharron, and we agree completely, but there just isn't a pool, it's closed down, our kids don't have access, they don't swim with the school. What would you say? I
would say that I think this is where, in lots of countries around the world, they mandate sport and they mandate leisure centres as part of government expense, and we don't. So I think investing in our health, you know, actually would save money for the National Health Service. So this is about looking at things in a much bigger spectrum rather than in a very narrow way, and to make sure that we can rebuild these pools. I mean, unfortunately, although swimming is on the national, it's not Ofsted checked. So one of my big soapboxes is to try and make sure that it gets on the Ofsted tick, you know, and then the schools will have to do it.
You've got the
I've got at least two.
You're on
I've got
several.
one on sport, one's women's sport, and the other one is trying to get kids fit and healthy and making sure they can swim.
Okay, well, both great causes.